Good evening, everybody. Welcome to tonight's meeting of the Escondido City Council. Please rise for a moment of reflection and remain standing for the flag salute.
Yes, please join me in a moment of reflection. We come together tonight to say thank you. Thank you for the privilege, the blessing, the honor it is to serve here in the city of Escondido. We come together tonight as a diverse community, a community of backgrounds, different beliefs, different presents, and different futures. We have one common goal, and that is the betterment of this city. We come together tonight to seek guidance, wisdom, and discernment during deliberations that transpire this evening. In doing so, we lift up Councilmember Fitzgerald, Councilmember Christian Garcia, Councilmember Martinez, Deputy Mayor Joe Garcia, and Mayor White. May they be granted peace and wisdom as they lead our city into a bright and prosperous future. Amen.
Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. This meeting is now called to order, and we'll do roll call. Councilmember Fitzgerald.
Present.
Councilman Christian Garcia.
Here.
Councilman Joe Garcia.
Present.
Deputy Mayor Martinez.
Present.
And I, Mayor White, am here. We'll move on to the presentation portion of the Just Kidding.
I just want to alert everybody that we're experiencing HVAC issues. That's why it's warm in here. We're evaluating how that is going to go. If the situation looks, if I get word that it is going to get worse, not better, we should probably talk about keeping people in this type of environment. Right now, I just wanted to let you know we're trying to address the boiler issue. The staff's been working on it for the last hour, but we will assess the conditions in the room and how they're likely to evolve over the next hour or two that we're in this meeting or longer. So I just wanted to give that word to everybody that we're evaluating the conditions.
All right, now we'll move on to our presentation from the Clean Energy Alliance. Thank you, sir. The time is yours.
Good evening. Thank you, Mayor White, council members, staff. My name is Rob Howard. I'm the External Affairs Manager for Clean Energy Alliance. And I want to thank you for giving us the opportunity to do an annual update for activities that have been occurring with Clean Energy Alliance. I have 30 minutes worth of slides, but I am going to skip through a number of them. The slides will be available for staff and for the council members. If you have other questions about the programs, I really want to focus on how the businesses and residents in Escondido can save money. So utility bills are an issue, and we want to do everything we can to support. I'm pressing. All right. Real quickly, just so you know, Clean Energy Alliance serves about 257,000+ customer accounts. In Escondido, there's over 57,000, as you see. 53,000 are in our default product, Clean Impact. I'd like you to pay particular attention to the fact that we have 3 power products, Clean Impact Plus, and Green Impact, each with a different level of renewable energy that you can use, because we do have some options for people with savings, and we'll talk about that later. We just had our 5-year anniversary celebration. We hosted it in Carlsbad. I provided you with our impact report that makes for a very good fan that we can use in session today. We also announced that our default power product, Clean Impact Plus, which was 50% renewable, that product is now up to 55% renewable. Just some quick overview, advocacy. We do get involved in advocating at the Public Utilities Commission, over 130 filings. We've got 8 programs and we've also worked on one of the programs to pull over $2 million in state funding secured for solar and battery storage for customers of Clean Energy Alliance. And the investments, 190 megawatts of new renewable energy, $750 million plus committed to new build renewable energy projects, and we are really focused on projects in our service territory. Just mentioned the $2 million that we have secured for local residents in the city of Escondido for our Solar Plus Connect program, which is solar and battery storage on low-income households. We've secured almost $400,000, and our Battery Bonus Connect. If you have solar, we've secured the battery at no cost to the customers to the tune for Escondido, $237,000 plus. We also understand that people struggle understanding their bill. They also struggle with what is available for bill assistance. We had webinars. We hosted 2 webinars in May, and from those webinars, we did record them. We had one in English and one in Spanish. They're on the Clean Energy Alliance YouTube channel. The participants learned where to find their bill, how to read their bill assistance options, and our program offerings, including our rate relief credit that I will talk about here in a second. And I want to also ask each of you if you could help us. Clean Energy Alliance has a community advisory committee, and that community advisory committee meets bi-monthly, and they advise our board of directors. And I want to also shout out our board of director, Councilmember Garcia, for actually providing input and making sure we never forget about Escondido as we're doing our work as staff. They're the liaison between the board and the community, and they provide feedback. We have an opening for the city of Escondido, and we're looking for someone to fill that void. And if you could share that with the community, all they have to do is be an Escondido resident or own a business in Escondido, and this term that's open goes through 2027. Again, the application is on our website, and if you have questions about that, we'd love to share the information with you to share with the community. Now, we talked about the ways and funding that's going to happen. Many people wonder what they see on their bill when it says the climate credit. The climate credit, there was a pause in April of 2026 where the Public Utilities Commission confirmed the pause, and they evaluated how the climate credit was going to be distributed. So it's funded by the California Cap and Invest program, and it's shifting on-bill credits to higher billed months. So it used to be applied in April and October, but now residential credits are shifting to August and September. So there are some people, depending on their cycle, may be seeing those credits come to their bill. Small business climate credit and the California industry assistance remains unchanged. The gas climate credit, starting in 2027, is going to be issued in February. They're trying to align it when it makes more sense and when they're being used. And the number one way I think people can save without having to do anything other than change some behavior. When you use your electricity is just as important as how much you're using. The highest cost period is from 4 p.m. to 9 p.m. And for us to understand, the 4 p.m. to 9 p.m. rates for the electricity is 10 times the cost of the super off-peak. And most people think super off-peak was midnight to 6. It has recently been changed from midnight to 6, but it also has a 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. time period. So you can wash clothes, you can cool down your house, you can do a number of things during the day. But again, we recognize if you want to save, limit the time you use power from 4 p.m. to 9 p.m. That's the time to stay away from. And so we have recommendations, we have charts to show people this is when you want to use the power. As I said before, we have 3 energy products, Clean Impact, Clean Impact Plus, and Green Impact, each with a different level of renewable energy. Right now, Clean Energy Alliance has available a temporary rate relief credit that's available for Clean Impact. The default power product is Clean Impact Plus. So you would need to call us or go online if you want to take advantage of that credit and opt down. And so you opt down to Clean Impact and you will receive that credit. So why that's important is there were changes to your utility bill that didn't have anything to do with electricity. You had the power charge and difference account changes, which raised your bill, but we didn't change the price of the electricity. But in order to respond to those changes, we have the rate relief credit available for customers. For example, if you use 361 kilowatt hours average household usage, in a month you get a almost $14 credit applied to your account. So when you use is a way to save. We also have the rate relief credit available for our customers. And there's a small uptake of people using it. In Escondido, we have 1 commercial customer taking advantage of it and 34 residential customers taking advantage of it, but it is available to customers right now. Another way to save, a third way to save, we have our Peak Smart Savers program. As you know, when it's hot outside, the grid can be stressed. And in order to participate in relieving that stress, we are providing discounted rates on peak and off-peak rates up to 30%. There's 3 rates: on peak, 4 to 9, off-peak is that middle period, and the super off-peak. Now, on peak, we can call what we call a Peak Smart Day, and that's when we ask you to reduce power from 4 to 9 p.m. on that day. You'll get email, you'll get text. We can't call more than 18 of those Peak Smart Days in a year, and you get the up to 30% off on those, the on-peak and off-peak rates, but also because understanding and trying to calculate bills is something that not everyone is good at, we make sure we provide bill protection. If someone signs up for Peak Smart in 2026 and they stay on the program for a year, we will evaluate their bill. If they would have spent more not being on the Peak Smart program, we will provide a refund for the difference. So we know it works well. We're monitoring the data, but that's how we can also help save, and it's another savings for customers. I'll go through these programs. In general, we have a Solar Plus program that's available with no out-of-pocket cost and no credit check. And so we have solar and battery systems, 25-year agreement, and you don't pay for the equipment. It is guaranteed in the program. We also have a business program that is, we have 2, you can have solar and battery as an option, but you can also have a battery-only option. The 10-year battery option is 10 years with a 0% escalator. If you participate in our commercial solar battery program, there actually is a 1% escalator. So you're able to really understand what your usage is and what the increase on your utility cost will be. Now, the solar business program is really for your larger utility users, 250,000 kilowatt hours of annual usage, which comes out to about $7,500 a month for utility usage. And that program is administered through our program administrator is Luminia. This program is also another way for your residents to save. I've talked to staff. It's the Equitable Building Decarbonization Program, which will provide, it's a statewide direct install program for single-family homeowners, low-income single-family homeowners, multifamily homeowners, and we're waiting to hear from the controllers when we're going to actually also start providing this information to manufactured and mobile homes. I have more information. I've shared it with your housing department. We're going to talk about how we can make sure we get the word out to the community. To qualify, less than 80% of area median income. And you have certain census tracts. We'll provide those census tracts to your housing department to be able to share out for the community. And the buildings just have to be older, built before January 1st, 2020. There's a map of the community focus areas. It's hard to see, and hopefully you can see it closer there. There are qualifying residents in Escondido, and we verify the address. Then they verify income. There's several ways to verify the income, but it is no cost installation. You get remediation. They pre-vet the contractors. training on how to run the new systems. You got everything from weatherization, energization, induction cooktops. You can get heat pump water heater, heat pump air conditioning, and heating. And there's a list of a number of the things. There's also heat pump or electric resistance clothes dryers. The enrollment is simple. You can go to our website and just put in EBD and search for it. There's a QR code. It'll be inside. It's in the files that we'll be leaving with you. Also, just as a reminder for your residents in Escondido, there are other discounts and assistance programs that are many times state programs administered through San Diego Gas and Electric, where you can get up to 30% for care to sign up based on income. FARA is 18% off. They can help you in a arrearage management program. You can levelize your pay. Also, for those who have medical equipment that they need to have all the time, you've got the medical baseline. You get discounted discounts on your bill for qualifying medical equipment. There's also various payment options available. And one I wanted to point out, a state-administered program called Go Green Financing. It's low-interest loans for energy efficiency projects, and I like to check these things out, and I share with our staff. I said, I'm going to call and find out how is this really real, because it sounded too good to be true. I put all energy-efficient windows in my house at like between 3.25% and 3.5% interest. And so I can tell you the program works. They buy down also. There's an option for businesses to get their loans bought down to zero. So it's something that's not just for residential, it's for businesses as well. And I hope I didn't take up too much of your time. I am available for questions, and I want to thank you all, but we really want to show there are ways for people to save in this time period. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Much appreciated.
All right.
Appreciate you being here. Just a couple things real quick before you
Sure.
sit down. First off, thank you again for coming tonight and for the presentation. I appreciate the effort that the Clean Energy Alliance is making to try and lower the cost for our residents and for the county, really, or in our area anyways. I'm just curious if there's any data around the biggest reasons people exit the Clean Energy Alliance altogether. I know Escondido's at 94% participation, but why won't the other 6% join?
Thank you, Mayor White, for the question. Having watched not just Clean Energy Alliance, but I watch other CCAs, what I have noticed is that when the program comes out, there are required notices we give customers. However, when people didn't understand what it was, there were opt-outs just because of that. And another one of the higher reasons that, because when they do give us a reason, a lot of people opted out because the law that required people to be opted in, people felt like it wasn't right to be opted in. So those, just the fact that they didn't know, and because there was an automatic opt-in, were the two ones that are probably the major.
Fair enough.
Reasons,
All right.
yeah.
Thank you. Question for the clerk. Can you email us this presentation so we can share the slides that have the QR code?
Yes.
Perfect.
Sent to you
Thank you.
now. Yep.
I'll turn it over to my colleagues.
Thank you, sir. So good to see you. Thank you for coming out, especially at this time. We do appreciate it. I appreciate the direction and the presentation. I know that when I talked to the mayor, both of us really wanted to focus on the pricing of everything. So we do appreciate the focus on that. I do want to add something that the mayor just asked. I think one of the other issues is that when people opted out or want to opt out is they have a belief that the SDG&E is more affordable than even our opt down to 50%. Can you speak to that just briefly about the pricing dynamic that we've moved forward with in order to keep people in the program?
Right. Thank you for the question, Council Member. One of the things that one of our focuses is affordability. And so what we try to do, if you'll look at, we don't change rates often, number one. But there are factors that cause your bill to go up that have absolutely nothing to do with, I shouldn't say absolutely nothing. They don't have anything to do with the actual rate that you're paying, like when the power charge and difference account charge went up. your total bill goes up. And for a customer, that's what they're focused on. It's the total bill. And that's why we have our rate relief credit, is because although those rates went up, what we wanted to do was provide a rate for the customers that would keep them on par or cheaper than San Diego Gas and Electric. And so we are constantly reviewing rates. We're actually hiring now. We're going to hire someone whose whole job will be about managing those rates because there are so many and they change. But yes, we focus on it because we want to stay competitive, and we have a higher level of renewables, and we're competitive at the same time.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And I know one of the other things, too, is that before, I think when the Clean Energy Alliance began, the way that it was billed was all kind of lumped in, and now it's itemized to be a little bit more clear per each one. So, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yes, I was going to say, on your bill, when you see, you go through, if anyone has spent time with their electric bill, you've got the generation portion, you've got the delivery, and then you have other taxes and fees. When you see the generation portion with Clean Energy Alliance on the SDG&E bill, it's actually, I think it's yellow. It's got a different color font, but it breaks it down based on your time of use for each one of those periods. And so you can see what it looks like on the bill. And if anyone has questions, they can call our call center. They can call our office. We will assist anyone that needs help with actually going through their bill.
Okay. That's it for me. I just wanted to address those issues, and I just want to thank you again for the presentation. I think this is exactly what we were looking for, and I really do appreciate it. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Hi, Rob. Good to see you.
You too.
Thank you for coming and presenting this information. I think it's very valuable. One thing, just because there are different programs, is this the number that one calls, or is there a different number? If someone just kind of wants to know, hey, help me go through my bill, help me choose the best option, that can kind of suggest a program that would fit the lifestyle of that resident. Is that something that the Clean Energy Alliance can do?
Yes, thank you, Council Member. We have our call center number, and you can call and ask that very question.
Okay.
I need to know which one is best for me. And so if they want to talk to us directly, I can leave my business cards. We do have bilingual staff, so there's no reason for people not to call. We are here to help.
Great. Thank you. And is that the number that's on the slide now up on the screen?
Yes.
Great.
833-232-3110.
Great. I think that would be great, because I know some people just kind of want to be held, they have their hand held through the process to kind of help them with the guesswork of which program fits their lifestyle better. And I just want to say thank you, because I always see you or your team everywhere in the community, no matter what city I'm in. You all show up to all the community events, and you've even reached out to me. I know I don't sit on the board, but about who can you present to, names of organizations. So I see how hard you and your team work to try to spread the word about the programs and to help save ratepayers money. So I just want to say thank you for all your hard work.
Well, thank you. I really appreciate that, and I do want to. I'm glad you acknowledged our staff, led by our CEO, Greg Wade. I have to tell you, I've spent 30-plus years in the utility industry, and this team that we have works hard. They're incredibly smart. I like being in a room with people a lot smarter than me, so I got a room full of them now. And they're willing to do the extra to support our community. And so also, I would recommend people to check out the YouTube channel, the How to Read Your Bill. There is a wealth of information. They can start there, write their questions down, and then we would continue to follow up. But it's a great amount of information. So thank you. I appreciate that.
Thank you so much.
Well, it's nice to see you again.
You too.
Thank you for coming and presenting. I had the honor to be the first council member to represent Escondido when we went through that transition. And the information that I continued to share with the community was CEA is committed to keeping the pricing below SDG&E.
Right.
And with that, a lot of the customers, okay. And when I noticed that there was a time where the bills were not going down. I took my bill and I decided to look at it. What you were talking about, I decided to look at it. And I realized that it wasn't CEA that was bringing that bill to be the same or more than before. And I think now that I understand that we have more options to share with the community, I think that's going to be something very welcomed. The program Go Green that you talked about, the state program. I don't know if you know this question or not, the answer to this question, but do you happen to know if they work with mobile homes also?
Councilmember Garcia, I don't know the answer, but I will get you the answer.
Thank you.
I will get that for you.
I'd appreciate that because I think that would be also very helpful for a lot of our residents here in Escondido. But great presentation, wonderful information.
Thank you.
Appreciate you and your staff being out in the community and making sure that we are aware of it and that publicly stating, here's the number, give us a call. Look at the videos, write your questions down, and we will help you. I think you'll be getting some phone calls from Escondido.
I appreciate that, council member, and also know that we don't have a problem working. If you all have events that you want us to show up, let us know. Your city staff has been great, love working with them. That's one of the beauties of this job. I share with people all the time. I get paid to help people. It's a wonderful thing. So if you have ideas, we're all ears. We really do appreciate that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So I had to move over here because my computer went out. Yes, I want to echo what my colleague said. Just great presentation. And I'm really glad that you are working with our planning department, planning and housing department. And also in terms of getting the word out, I'm really happy about the new, just the social media and how what we're doing to also get the word out, on the different platforms. Do you do any public, not just at councils, but if there are organizations that want to hear about what the CEA does, are you available to go and speak?
Thank you, Councilmember, for that question. Absolutely.
Okay.
Because we understand that it is those one-on-one touch points with organizations who know the community. Mm-hmm. Then we have someone that trusts. People trust certain people. Mm-hmm. And if we can communicate with them what we're doing, because again, we will show up, we get it scheduled. If you'll look at the outreach our staff does, we were doing National Night Out last night, so I was working last night, and then I'm here tonight, and that's what we do. We'll be there for you. So if you have any organization, have them contact us, and we'll get something scheduled.
Yes, and not just for the residents, but you were talking businesses. I'd like to see those numbers go up because maybe they're not aware of it as well. Thank you for what you do.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you again. Appreciate you coming tonight and for the presentation.
Thank you, Mayor.
You're welcome back anytime, by the way.
All right, thank you. Thank you.
Awesome. Do we have a report out of closed session?
Very briefly, items 1 and 2 have been continued to next week, August 12. No further public report at this time.
Okay. Public comments?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, I'll be bringing in one. First, we have Ruth Weber.
Hello, my name is Ruth Weber, and tonight I would like to speak to you about adopting an alternate plan for Kit Carson Park instead of the partnership with the Rinks Foundation. The City Council values taking care of the environment, as evidenced by their day honoring the people who take care of our parks. And one of your members even posted recently about ways citizens can best lower their energy bills, and we really appreciate that. A 180,000 square foot 3-rink ice skate complex would not be taking care of our environment, and it would require huge amounts of power and water, which would affect all the residents of Escondido. We know that the amphitheater and the adult softball fields are presently run down, and that appears to be due to the fact that there were actually 7 different rink plan locations in Kit Carson Park, and not just the one that was rolled out to the public. And there was no reason to repair these locations since they might be eliminated. Our local theater company, Patio Playhouse, has had a lease with the city every year since 2004, and they even spent $25,000 on a new lighting truss for the facility. And right now, they can't use the facility because it would cost $100,000 to replace the tech equipment that caught fire in the past. They would want a 10-year lease commitment from you in order to make these repairs, and the city's only offering a 1-year lease. Let's partner with them and bring back shows to the park and fix the infrastructure and do the same with the adult softball leagues. Ryan Park Soccer League maintains all the fields and facilities in its park and even directs traffic for all the tournaments held there. And Daily Ranch runs its own work crews and volunteer crews that take care of their own park. This is something that's proven to work and cuts maintenance costs and would keep our citizens invested in the park that they purchased with their own tax dollars. It's time to hold a public forum meeting like we should have done 4 years ago when rinks approached the city. So let's see how we can partner with our own local organizations that already use our parks and understand what the vision for it was. Please, let's see if we can work together now. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Melinda.
Thank you for mentioning mobile homeowners, because I'm one of them. For the record, I am Melinda Ross Santa Cruz. On July 31st, my friend and I were going to Farmer Boys on Rock Springs Road. There was a puppy in distress. A man held up empty jugs and begged for water. This is really hard. This was the most upsetting experience of my life. I bought 2 jugs of water for them and later saw out the window that the man was waving empty jugs again and calling for help. I went out and the puppy was under a truck and lifeless. The man said the dog hadn't had water or food in 2 days. I ran across the street and grabbed my breakfast burrito and took it to them. The man grabbed it out of my hands and began tearing it up and throwing it at the dog. The dog's eyes snapped open, and he began to suck it up like a vacuum cleaner. I told the man I'd go to the pet store and buy food. He asked if I could buy a water bowl too, and if I had the change, could I bring some food for him because he hadn't eaten in days. His food, 3 days. His food stamp allotment of $200 didn't last for a full month. God bless him for feeding the dog and not running off. I got a snack tray for him, and when I got back, the dog had completely revived and was resting in the shade. The man stuffed the food in his mouth as fast as he could. The owner of the dog had returned and said if she gives the dog the food from the food bank, it gets raging diarrhea every time. Therefore, she scrapes together $11 to buy a bag of food from the pet supply store. The reason the homeless always have puppies, by the way, is that the dogs never reach adulthood because they are tortured to death and stuffed in trash bags. I never thought I'd see starvation in America. America is no longer the greatest country. There is no greatest country. I went home and put some food in a bag and then returned to give it to the man. A few minutes later, someone radiant came up to me smiling and said, "God bless you." At first, I didn't know who it was, and then I realized it was the man I'd given food to. The interface should never have gotten a conditional use permit without having a place for these people to go and be cared for. They just use them and dump them to shuttle them from one place to the other. They are exhausted and need more help if someone is going to make big money at their expense.
Thank you, Ms.
And
Ross Santa Cruz. Your time has expired. Thank you. Our next speaker is Stephen Wheeler.
Test 1, 2. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Hi, I'm Stephen Wheeler, a District 3 resident. Honorable civil servants, I speak to you this evening to express gratitude, recognition, and my full support. This regarding the recent reopening of our public library. As a retired biopharmaceutical industry, chemistry manufacturing controls project manager, I understand what it takes to deliver a project under budget and ahead of schedule. The list goes way beyond the required vision, required team building and maintenance of the team, and all that requires, beyond organizational skills, beyond focus, and beyond passion. The full list of delivering a project so demonstrably well would exhaust the time I have allotted. Suffice to say, my kudos to you and all those involved in this project. A job really well done. Keep up the good work. Welcome home, library. We missed you. With respect, thank you.
No further public comments on this item.
All right, thank you. Were any items pulled from consent?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, item number 6 has been pulled by the public.
Okay, let's do this. I'll make a motion to approve items 1 through 5 and 7 and ask for a second. Motion and second. Any discussion before we vote? If not, please vote.
Voting is open. Motion approved, 5-0.
All right, that brings us to item 6, which is a request approval for change order 2 and an anticipated third change order to the public improvement agreement with Palm Engineering Construction Company.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We have Greg Oliver, who has pulled this item. Mr. Oliver, you can come forward. And to remind the council, when items are pulled off the consent calendar by the public, staff is readily available to come and do a presentation at your request. But at this time, Mr. Oliver.
Good evening, Council. I'm here today to talk about this item 6, which was a resolution to approve a change order for the pickleball court that's supposed to be at the Mountain View Park. I went through the agenda package, and the chronology of the events were at the 90% engineering point. The estimate was approximately $1 million. And the response, that was felt that was a lot of money, and the response was to cut back some of the features, like the patio and the retaining wall, and go to bid. That suggestion was taken, and the project did go to bid, and it came back well under the estimate. So, since it was well under the estimate, the features were put back in. The features that were once struck were put back in at a cost of $131,000. And I couldn't help but think that if the project was all right without those features in it, then maybe that $131,000 could have gone towards helping low-cost housing, the homeless, helping the hungry, public institutions like the library. And if that's too much, I mean, if this is dedicated park money, then maybe there are other parks in town that could use rehabilitation rather than a $1.25 million beautification project in District 2 with 8 pickleball courts at $150,000 each. That's really my only remark.
Is any questions, comments, or I'll entertain a motion from the council? There's a motion, a second. If there is no comments, please vote.
Voting is open. Motion approved, 5-0.
Okay, on to public hearings tonight. Item 8 is a short-form rent increase application for Westwinds Mobile Home Park. And starting in this meeting, I'm going to request that each council member disclose any ex parte communications, site visits, or other relevant disclosures concerning this item that should be placed on the record before we begin the public hearing. Does anybody have any communications they need to disclose on this item before we open the hearing? Okay, this hearing is open, and I'll turn it over to our presenters. Thank you.
Before we get started, Mayor and I were speaking for a moment. He's about to step out, so I am the deputy mayor. So he was asking me if for me to go ahead and chair while he steps out, and explaining to me why it caught him off guard. He had some notes there that said Deputy Mayor Martinez. So
The way my notes are written, in order, I just call it. And so I've been saying Deputy Mayor Martinez for like 6 months now.
I don't know that long.
Just on autopilot. So, Mr. Garcia here is the deputy mayor.
So anyway, I thought because we were chatting that you may wonder, what are they talking about? That's what we were talking about. Thank you. Please continue.
Good evening, members of the Rent Review Board. My name is Carlos Cervantes, and I'm the Housing and Neighborhood Services Management Analyst for Mobile Home Parks. With me is Code Compliance Officer Alfredo Rubio. For your consideration this evening is a short-form rent increase application for Westwinds Mobile Home Park. The board is asked to receive this presentation, hear public testimony, and make a determination concerning the rent increase request in accordance with the factors set forth in the Escondido Mobile Home Control Ordinance and the Mobile Home Rent Review Board guidelines. Today, we'll be taking a look at the presentation purpose, a brief history of mobile home rent control within the city, an overview of the park and the request, the resident meeting, and wrap up with code findings and any questions you might have. The purpose of the presentation is to provide an overview of the Westwinds Mobile Home Park short form application. The board is asked to review and consider approving resolution number 2026-127. On June 8, 1988, the Escondido residents voted to approve Proposition K to enact mobile home rent control in the city of Escondido. Under Prop K, if a park owner wants to increase the rent of a mobile home rent control space, they must file an application with the city to obtain approval from the Mobile Home Rent Review Board. In 1997, the board adopted changes to the Mobile Home Rent Review Board guidelines to allow for acceptance of a short form application. The short form is an abbreviated and less administratively burdensome application process for park owners and city staff. Through a short-form application, a park owner can request a rent increase based solely on the change in San Diego Metropolitan Area's Consumer Price Index, or CPI, versus a long form that takes several factors into consideration, including change in CPI, local rent comparisons, capital improvements, changes in property tax, changes in utility costs, and changes in operating and maintenance expenses as well. In order to be eligible for a short form, it has to have been at least 12 months since the last rent increase application was deemed complete. A park owner's request has to apply to 100% of the rent control spaces in the park. A park owner has not increased the rents beyond allowable limits in the past 5 years. Upon turnover, a park owner may increase rents up to 8%, and the requested increase may not exceed 90% of the increase in CPI since the last application was granted by the board, or 8%, whichever one is less. Westwinds Mobile Home Park is an all-age park. It has 66 spaces, with 40 spaces being subject to rent control. The remaining spaces are owned by the park. The last rent increase was approved August of 2025, and the average increase at that time was $21.32, or a 2.786% increase. Here's a map of the park's location, located at 1415 South Pine Street within District 3. Here's some pictures of the amenities offered at the park. There's a swimming pool, a laundry facility, and a furnished clubhouse as well. Here's a summary of the park's request. The request covers a period of 12 months of consideration. As I mentioned before, the last increase was approved August of 2025 with an average increase of $21.32 per space per month. The park is currently requesting a maximum allowable increase of 90% in the change in CPI, which equates to 0.604%. The average rent for the affected 40 rent control spaces is currently $793.20. The average requested increase is $4.76, with increases ranging from $2.46 to $5.91. A resident meeting was held on July 13th at 6 p.m. Individual notices were sent to each resident affected by this request, notifying them of the rent increase application, the resident meeting, and the public hearing date. 2 residents attended the meeting. Salvador Torres was a representative identified, but chose not to attend today's meeting. Additionally, since a public meeting, we have received no phone calls or emails regarding the concerns about increase, and no residents signed in this evening to protest the increase. At this time, I'll turn it over to Alfredo to cover the code compliance inspections.
Good evening, Mayor White. Good evening, council members, and thank you. On July 13th, a lighting inspection was performed by the Code Compliance Division. No lighting violations were identified. On July 14th, an inspection of the common areas was conducted by the Code Compliance Division, Housing and Neighborhood Services staff, and Park Management. 2 general park violations were identified. 1, for an inoperable bathroom shower door in the men's pool restroom, and another for overgrown tree branches encroaching into the roadway by Space 5 on Bali Hay Road. A notice was mailed to the park manager and owner informing them of the violations. According to the Mobile Home Rental Review Board guidelines, no increase granted for any park shall go into effect until any existing code violations are corrected. A reinspection was conducted, and as of July 27th, 2026, all violations were corrected. Thank you.
Thank you, Alfredo. So this application meets eligibility criteria for submittal of a short-form rent increase application. Staff recommends approving the application and adopting Rent Review Board Resolution 2026-127, granting an increase of 90% in the change in CPI, which is 0.604% and equals an average increase of $4.76 space per month. If approved, Park Management must notify all affected residents 90 days prior to any rent increase taking place. This concludes the presentation. We'll be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you. We'll go to public comment first.
Yes, Jim Yance, if you wish to speak. Yes. No, perfect. Not a problem. That was the park representative. Yeah, great. No.
I'm sure there'll be some questions possibly. There usually is. Okay, then we will close the public hearing, and I'll open this just by saying thank you for the presentation. When considering fair, just, and reasonable, and the fact that nobody is protesting this increase at $4.76 cents per space, I think that fits that justification, and I'll go ahead and make the motion to approve the rent increase and ask for a second, and then open it up for discussion. I have a second? Okay, it's all yours. Go ahead.
Thank you for the presentation, and nice to meet you, Alfredo. Just a little discrepancy on the number of residents that attended the meeting. The staff report says 2, and the presentation says 3. So I don't know which one needs to be corrected, but just for the record being correct. Can you also share any comments? Like, what was the comments of the residents? Did they just attend in informational capacity only, or did they have anything to say since no representative showed up today?
Yeah, so the representatives just got the notice and had questions just kind of about what the increase was, what we're taking into consideration. So we just clarified that. It was their first time receiving a rent increase, so they just wanted more background information on the process of it.
Okay, great. Thank you for that information. And then I'm glad that all the violations have been corrected. The inoperable bathroom shower door, maybe this is from Mr. Jans. Do you know how long that was inoperable for? I'm just curious if this was like a long-standing issue or just it's something that you found out about when the inspection occurred.
When the inspection
Okay,
occurred.
great.
We had gone through it probably a week or so before, and it was operable.
Good, okay, that's
So-
good. Fair enough. Okay, that's all my questions. Thank you.
Councilmember Fitzgerald?
Yes, thank you for the presentation. And Alfredo, you have a great presenting voice, so welcome to the team. I also agreed that the amount is fair and reasonable, especially since the range is a little bit over $2 to almost $6, so it's kind of close to the middle. So thank you for that. I do recall last time you were here, unless I'm mistaken, you still offer programs for people that are struggling, financially struggling, and so you help them through the process, and that's still something that's put out there every time you go over this, or whenever this comes up, you put that out there to the residents, correct?
Thompson Properties manages 4 properties in Escondido, so that would be Westwinds, Greencrest, Carefree Ranch, and Eastwood Meadows, and assistance programs are available to all our residents. So if somebody's, it's generally a stress situation, so I manage a senior community directly, and if we've had a couple and one of them passes and suddenly their income is affected because of Social Security, we'll step in and help them to save their home, stay in the park.
And you're very good about just getting that information out to them even before they need it?
Yep.
Okay, good communication.
Yeah,
All right.
in fact, my boss, Katie Morris, has us periodically kind of look through and try to identify people that might be struggling. Maybe they always paid on time and now they're starting to pay late. Can we reach out to them and ask, is there something brewing? And we've discovered things that way and been able to help people out.
Okay, and not pertaining to this, but since we just watched a presentation on the Clean Energy Alliance, maybe you can connect with that gentleman and see how we can
I
help the park.
talked to Mr. Howard out in the lobby.
Oh, great.
So,
All right.
we're waiting.
All right, well, thank you so much.
Yeah,
I
you're welcome.
appreciate what you do.
Others?
Okay, there's a motion and second. Any other discussion? If not, please vote.
Voting is open. Motion approved, 5-0.
Great, we'll move on to our second public hearing of the night. Again, does anybody have any ex parte communications, site visits, or other relevant disclosures concerning this item that they want to disclose? And I will go first. I did speak with the appellant, Ms. Heidi. I also spoke with the one planning commissioner, Dustin Steve, who voted against the project moving forward at the planning commission. And then I drove by the site, although I did not go on the site.
I also spoke with the appellant several times throughout the process over the last month.
And I met virtually with the appellant on 2 occasions and received multiple communications via email. And that's it.
I've received email and I've read them, but other than that, I don't recall any other communication with either party.
I had communications and conversations with the San Diego Air Pollution Control District, the Department of Toxic Substances, and the Environmental Association, and I also had some conversations with the appellant Heidi Whitman, and also drove by the location.
All right, thank you. This public hearing is now open, and I'll turn it over to the presenters. Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor White, Deputy Mayor and Council members. My name is Garrett Smith, City Planner with the Development Services Department. I'm joined tonight by Ivan Flores. He's a Principal Planner here with the department. He will be representing staff and present the staff report. We also have the applicant here this evening, should you have questions of them, and I believe they also have a presentation.
Good evening, Mayor and Deputy Mayor and Council members. Ivan Flores, Principal Planner with Planning Services, and I'll be presenting on this item this evening. So tonight I'll go over a brief history of the project, the proposed project, the action taken by the Planning Commission on April 28th, the subsequent appeal filing, the responses to that appeal, and specifics regarding the environmental determination, stormwater design, and the results of the voluntary soils testing. And finally, the recommended action for City Council. For context, the subject parcel is 6.02 acres and is south of Hamilton Lane and east of Bernardo Avenue. The site is surrounded by single-family residential development, most of which is under the jurisdiction of the County of San Diego. The prior project approved in this location included an annexation into the city, a pre-zoning request, a 5-lot tract map, and the adoption of an environmental determination, which was a mitigative negative declaration. Because of the annexation component of the project at that time, the City Council was the original decision-making body. The previous project was approved in 2007, and the environmental document was adopted for the site at that time. Through multiple state and requested extensions, the project remained entitled through 2021. The previous project then expired at the end of that year. In 2024, the applicant filed a new request for a 5-lot tentative subdivision map on the parcel. This project included minor changes to the previously approved project, including the addition of a stormwater basin for stormwater compliance. A CEQA addendum to the adopted initial study mitigative negative declaration was prepared for the project pursuant to CEQA guidelines 15164. It is important to note that the expiration of the previous map does not include the expiration of the environmental document for this project, which remains valid under CEQA. As shown here, the proposed project includes 5 single-family residential lots, a stormwater basin, and the addition of a private street for access to lots 2 through 4, with lot 1 taking access from Bernardo Avenue. Frontage improvements include sidewalk, curb and gutter are also included in the project scope. The project is near the former Chatham Barrel Yard site, which operated as a waste oil and solvent facility in the 1940s. This site was identified as a contamination site in 1982 and was designated as a state Superfund site in 1985, which is the designator for long-term environmental cleanup and monitoring sites. This effort is monitored by the Department of Toxic Substances and Control, also known as DTSC. This project was presented to the Planning Commission on April 28, 2026, and recommended for approval by city staff. 2 public speakers were at the hearing, one for the project and one against. Initially, Commissioner Stevie had wanted to include a condition to require soils testing on the site. Commissioners Weiler and Spear did not believe that the environmental analysis provided would support adding this condition to the project. Ultimately, it was approved by the Planning Commission on a 4-to-1 vote, with Commissioner Stevie voting against. On May 7th, 2026, the appellant, Heidi Whitman, filed an appeal of the Planning Commission's decision to approve the project on April 28th and provided supplemental documentation on May 11th, again on May 21st, again on June 4th, a geologist letter provided on July 24th, a 4th supplemental provided letter on July 29th, and finally a 5th supplemental provided on July 31st, 2026. The items of concern listed in these appeals include the adequacy of the environmental review prepared for the project, soil contamination, the bioretention basin, and stormwater design. The applicant's environmental consultant provided a Phase 1 environmental site assessment, also known as an ESA, to analyze the project site and verify that no further study or review would be required. The Phase 1 concluded that no conditions warranted further environmental assessment exist on the project site. Pursuant to the CEQA guidelines, section 15162, which governs the preparation of a subsequent negative declaration, and section 15164, which governs the use of addendum to an EIR or negative declaration. Pursuant to these guidelines, certain triggers must be present that would require subsequent environmental documents to be prepared and circulated for public review. This project was analyzed against those potential triggers, and no factors requiring preparation and circulation of a subsequent M&D were identified. Pursuant to the CEQA guidelines 15164, an addendum to the previously adopted mitigative negative declaration may be used to analyze a minor change to the project when no other significant environmental impacts are anticipated from said change. In this case, a mitigative negative declaration was prepared for the prior project in this location, and no factors requiring a subsequent mitigative negative declaration were present. Therefore, an addendum was prepared to analyze a minor change to the project, which was the addition of a basin as required for stormwater compliance. A revised mitigation monitoring and reporting program reflects this analysis provided in the addendum. One of the other concerns, and that was highlighted in the appeal, was the stormwater design. And the information that was presented in the one of the initial appeals was that the stormwater basin was a infiltration basin. However, that is not the case. Here we see the design that was included in the plan sets that were provided to the Planning Commission. This project includes what is called a biofiltration basin, which utilizes an impermeable liner to hold stormwater and media to treat the water before exiting the basin to the outlet pipe to the storm drain as shown. No water would be filtering through the soil in this location as asserted by the appellant. Additionally, the project applicant, through his environmental consultant, voluntarily conducted a soils and soil gas sampling and analysis at 4 locations on the project site, which are shown here as the yellow dots. The results of the testing showed that VOCs and PCBs were not detectable in the soil and that no VOCs were detected in the soil gas samples. This indicates that vapor intrusion is not a human exposure pathway of concern on this site and no further assessment is warranted. Additionally, as discussed in the staff report, on June 10th, the San Diego Regional Water Quality Board held a regularly scheduled meeting wherein the appellant provided public comment related to the project and listed concerns outlined in her appeal. In response, Sean McLean, Senior Geologist for the Groundwater Programs Division of the Board, stated that they had previously met with San Diego and DTSC regarding the proposed project and concluded that it was a good project to be done. And just to clarify, the City of Escondido did meet with DTSC and the Regional Water Quality Board on June 4th. Further, Mr. McLean stated that the shallow plume had attenuated and that the deep plume is 500 to 1,000 feet beneath the surface at this point and is moving away from the project site. The transcript and the YouTube, the link to the video was provided in the City Council staff report. Procedurally, the Council has 3 options. Staff's recommendation this evening is to approve Resolution 2026-90 denying the appeal and affirming the decision of the Planning Commission. Alternatively, City Council could grant the appeal and require additional review, or continue the hearing and provide direction to staff for additional studies and either revise the addendum or determine whether additional review is needed. This will conclude staff's presentation. Staff and the property owner are available to answer any questions at this time. Thank you.
Thank you. I would like to invite the applicant up. Thank you. The time is yours.
Great. Thank you very much for the opportunity to speak with you. And thank you very much for your leadership in ensuring that we look out for the best interests of the city. And so, actually, there's going to be 3. I'm Lee Duran. I am the owner and developer of the property. And I'm assisted with Robert Diamaro, who's a professional engineer with Masalan and Associates, very long tenure and experience, and with Dan Weiss, who is an environmental manager with Weiss Environmental, and significant experience involved. I just want to say a little bit about why I'm doing this or why I'm interested. I'm really passionate about the environment. My entire career has been focused on sustainable business practices and trying to assist environmental issues. Starting from the Peace Corps back in the early 80s, all the way through 34 years as a CPA working with different companies in sustainable business practices, through my retirement in 2020 and then going into CAL FIRE as a firefighter 1 for 4 years, and was actually even stationed over here at Del Dios Station for a while. Sitting with them, with some of the firefighters and listening to their concerns and needs. Some of these guys are coming from as far back as Beaumont, Menifee, Apple Valley. It's just a long way to come because they can't afford to live here. And I am blessed with the opportunity to help develop a parcel here. And so I thought we would like to develop with a new focus on environmental and cost consciousness. Just to further show my environmental focus, right now I'm on the board of Pacific Crest Trail Association. I'm on San Diego Coastkeeper, which is also the Waterkeeper. I just rolled off Center for Sustainable Energy and Native Renewables, which is a tribal community putting solar installations in on 140,000 homes in the Navajo and Hopi areas. So the objective of the development really is to provide cost-effective and environmentally focused housing. Housing will be very modest at maximum 2,500 feet, and it's not made to try to maximize the living area for the land. The layout and construction will adopt passive home designs, meaning we'll take advantage of the light, the air, the natural air movement, natural materials. We're going to use fire-resistant materials. We're going to be using gray water systems and other basically environmental-focused items. Hopefully this could meet LEED design expectations, but we'll be working toward that. As you can see, we've got 6 acres. We're only building 5 buildable lots, and one of those will be the biofiltration system. The project will create substantial infrastructure improvements, including sidewalks, curbs, crosswalks, biofiltration, et cetera. And so let's go to the next. And one of the key areas here too, as you can see, this is basically a grading cut and fill heat map. And that center line in the middle there is the road that will be reaching the 2 back properties. We are moving only 8,700 cubic yards of dirt, and basically to cut through approximately 5 to 9 feet. That's it. Well short of the water table. The grading is only part, and we don't expect that we'll be doing any blasting or requiring any advanced movement of the soils. And I'm going to let you read the slide directly of myself, but I'll turn it over to Dan now. But finally, let me say that I would never, ever propose a project that may create a hazard to the environment or to the residents.
Hello, Dan Weiss, Weiss Environmental. I am going to focus on the Chatham Brothers Barrel Yard because that is one of the, or if not the most important topic of the appellant's argument. We already went through the history of it, so I am not going to reiterate that. I'm just going to say that Chatham Brothers Barrel Yard is the most extensively studied and remediated contaminated site in the history of North County, San Diego. It was a significant one. Who oversees it? We already talked about that. Department of Toxics, Water Board, the PRP group. That is a group of about 40 corporations who brought waste to the barrel yard. They are now on the hook for the cost of the cleanup and the assessment. So there's some pretty heavy hitters in there. The Hamilton Lane project does not replace or interfere with the oversight of the cleanup at this project site. This is a schematic of the property. You'll see that it was a former groundwater monitoring well on the property. It was known as MW57. The prior property owner, prior to Mr. Duran, he did not like the fact that there was a well on his property. He took that to the PRP group, took it to the DTSC, and he won the argument. He was able to get them to take the well off of his property, and they moved it up into the street there. Off of Hamilton, MW67 replaced it. They are very close by. The movement of that well does not inhibit the PRP group's ability to continue to monitor the plume length and stability of their groundwater issue. I'm going to hit this one real quick. MW67 used to have pretty elevated volatile organic compound concentrations in it. Due to the success of the groundwater remedy, in April 2024, it went down to pretty much being non-detected. In April of 2025, it rose slightly by 9 parts per billion, which is a pretty insignificant increase. But the thing to remember here is this is deeper zone groundwater. The shallow zone groundwater has pretty much been restored to pristine condition. And for the different VOCs that make up that 9 part per billion increase, if you look at them individually, the concentrations are below the drinking water standards for each individual one. In 2024, they completed their 5-year remedy review, and the remedy has been highly successful, especially for groundwater. There's still some work to be done, but that's all deeper zone groundwater that they're focusing on right now. Vapor intrusion is a very hot item in our business. This is a conceptual vapor intrusion model. This is not what's going on around the Chatham Brothers Barrel Yard site. Otherwise, there would be vapor mitigation systems in all the residences around it, which is a great thing. There's not. But basically, you have some source of contamination. VOC vapors migrate upward into building spaces. That's the concept behind vapor intrusion. We do not have vapor intrusion issue in and around the barrel yard. And that's a good thing because there's occupied homes all around it. And the last thing we want is city residents to be living in unsafe conditions. Again, I hit on the fact that the shallow groundwater has been cleaned by way of the groundwater remedy, thereby preventing vapor intrusion from occurring. Because even though you might have some slightly contaminated groundwater down below, you have a nice clean groundwater buffer before you get to the land surface. It cannot penetrate through. Mr. Duran also, though, did perform some voluntary soil vapor sampling, as well as soil sampling, just to dot his I's and cross his T's. Even though he didn't have to, he still did this additional sampling work just to confirm that there was no impact from Chatham Brothers. We went into it knowing that there wouldn't be, based on all the work that's been done, but we did the work as a proactive measure. Appellant's theory is that construction may redirect the groundwater plume and inhibit their cleanup. There would have to be some remarkable things happening for that to be the case. It's statistically impossible, and we've seen no technical evidence presented that would demonstrate that that would occur. The conclusions are the site is under highly scrutinized environmental oversight. The PRP group and their consultants are incredibly smart people, and they are attacking this to this day to ultimately get final closure in the near future. And it's very good to know that residents around the barrel yard are not adversely impacted by their issues, including what will be built at this property someday.
And thank you. Your time has expired, but you will have 5 minutes for rebuttal after the applicant.
Sorry. The appellant has let me know she's going to go a few minutes over 10, so we can let them finish their presentation.
Up to the chair's discretion.
We're done. We're done.
Oh, all right. Never mind.
Thanks.
All right, we'll turn it over now to the appellant.
Thank you, Council. 1 second. All right. Thank you, Council, for your time. My name is Heidi Whitman. I'm the appellate of the Hamilton Lane Bernardo proposed development. I'm going to start off by saying that this property lies 700 feet down gradient of an active contamination site known as the Chatham Barrel Yard. To start, I want to identify what this appeal is and what this appeal isn't. We are asking that the environmental review match the complexity of this site. Specifically, we are not arguing that houses should not be built here. This is not an anti-housing appeal. We are not arguing that the plume has not declined. The cleanup has made real progress. And we are not arguing that this project should be denied outright. What we are asking for is an environmental investigation implementing the recommendations of Snyder Geologic in his letter dated to the city July 24th. Specifically, he said, at a minimum, the city should require a geotechnical investigation, blasting should be avoided, deeper soil and soil vapor sampling beneath each proposed home to a maximum excavation depth, plus perch groundwater evaluation. Monitoring wells should be placed on the proposed parcel to determine the groundwater contamination levels within this specific parcel, and formal DTSC and regional water board input should be technical input should be on this project. A stormwater basin should not be approved for this project, according to our hydrogeologist, and a soil management plan, specifically what Commissioner Steve mentioned when he voted against this project. And lastly, no agricultural or supply wells on this site, specifically because the water board noted and our hydrogeologist noted that they can move the plume in specific directions. Here's a brief history. I won't spend much time on this slide since everyone before me has kind of run through this history. The dump was operating for 40 years. At this dump site, when state investigators went to this site in the early 80s, they found over 200 abandoned 55-gallon drums, including drums in the freshwater pond, the waterway on this contamination site. There was widespread soil and groundwater contamination found, leading it to its designation as a state Superfund site. In the mid-90s, site investigations confirmed that this was officially a plume that was spreading down south throughout the community, and the leading edge in 1998 was at Felicita Park. In 2013, a irrigation supply well plan was put in place because private wellhead owners south of this proposed development were threatened by the moving plume. There was irrigation well cleanup put on these, called wellhead treatment, that was put on these private well owners. However, on a recorded call with DTSC, they did acknowledge there is a 1,4-dioxane exposure gap that still exists today. The carbon mechanism treatment on these wellheads was not designed to specifically treat for 1,4-dioxane, and the latest EPA findings says the carbon mechanism only treats between 5 and 10% of 1,4-dioxane. The cleanup is active today. The plume extends roughly 1 mile down gradient. In the most recent annual monitoring reports, repeated verbatim, achievement of the remedial goal would require a significant amount of time, decades or more, particularly in fractured bedrock media. The plume and the project itself. Again, we've kind of already discussed this. The project is directly down gradient 700 feet of the source site. It's an active contamination plume. It is ongoing. There are private agricultural wells south of this proposed development. And again, I want to reiterate that the current wellhead treatment does not treat for all toxins, and DTSC has acknowledged this 1,4-dioxane gap as early as a letter in 2013. The cleanup is making progress, but it's far from finished. The cleanup has removed over 2,000 pounds of VOCs. This is a highly contaminated site. 6 regional supply wells, like I mentioned, are still on this treatment plan. However, there is this 1,4-dioxane gap, as well as 17 wells in this monitoring area, in this neighborhood, showed rebounds, 17 monitoring wells from the 2024 to 2025 from their lows in 2023. This is precisely why the plume's decline and the need for careful review can be both true at once. The plume is not static. Rebounds surround this parcel. Upgradient at the source site of the original contamination, shallow monitor P11, showed an increase in contamination up to 7-fold. The extraction well on the source site as well showed an increase from 2024 to 2025. Next, we get down to the mid-plume, monitoring well 64, directly upgradient of this proposed project site, showed an increase from non-detect to 4.4 in just TCE in 2025. Then if you look at the private agricultural wells just south of the proposed development site, Schnobelin 1 and Chute 1, which are private agricultural wells, bringing over 1 million gallons of water to the surface each year. Both showed contamination, specifically 1,4-dioxane doubled from 11 to 21, TCE almost doubled, both above drinking water. Excuse me, I want to clarify, 1,4-dioxane does not have a drinking water MCL, but TCE, it did trigger an above MCL limit. At the very end of the plume, we've seen in the shallow and in the deep, monitoring well 54 shallow and the deep well monitoring 70, we've seen increases at both of those monitoring wells in the 2024 and 2025 monitoring report. These are correlated rebounds from the source of the contamination all the way to the leading edge of the plume in Felicita Park. Here is a correlated rebound map. This is a schematic map, not to scale. You can see that the proposed development sits right in the middle of the plume, surrounded by rebounds from north to south. The one non-detect well that the city leans on is the agricultural well owned by the developer on an adjacent property south. This is a 5-lot subdivision with heavy ground disturbance. Like I mentioned before, this proposed project is 700 feet down gradient of the yard. It mentions in the project application that blasting is a potential, and there is large rock outcropping in the middle of the site with potential blasting noted in the project application. Our retained hydrogeologist noted that this is the single greatest risk to neighboring properties in the ongoing cleanup is the potential for blasting. This is a cut and fill of 8,700 cubic yards. Just to put that into perspective, that is not a minor amount for 5 lots. That's 870 dump truck loads of soil. The bioretention basin excavates to roughly 6.5 feet. The dissenting commissioner cited the absence of a soil management plan and said he did not feel comfortable moving soil without that in place, specifically testing as they dig. Again, here spells out that they only tested the soil down to 2 feet. However, the excavation of just the bioretention basin goes to 6.5 feet. 0 groundwater monitoring wells remain on this parcel. The one that was here was removed at the former property owner's request, as mentioned by the applicant. The environmental review is tiered to a 2007 study, 19 years old. Just To call out one of the changed circumstances that should trigger a CEQA review, the regulatory understanding of vapor intrusion has changed significantly since this original 2000 environmental assessment. Specifically, DTSC has submitted a note to the responsible party tightening the vapor intrusion screening. This letter was sent to the PRP group in 2025. That alone is a changed condition since the 2007 review. The last groundwater ever sampled at this site was tested in 2008. Let's look at the numbers. The last monitoring report from this parcel site was the highest contaminant level of any monitoring well, deep monitoring well in the entire regional monitoring network. The monitoring well nearest this project, proposed project, is groundwater monitoring well 67. Staff leans on a statement that the closest nearest monitoring well to this project is a private agricultural well 33G3 owned by the proposed developer on an adjacent parcel. However, our hydrogeologist has noted that this is incorrect, that the nearest monitoring well and nearest monitoring point is monitoring well 67, which contains TCE and PCE, which rose from non-detect to detectable levels. Had this monitoring well 57 remained on this property today, there would be no question of the actual contamination level in the groundwater below this site. To be clear, we're not arguing that the plume hasn't declined substantially. I'm not telling you that these numbers here from the 2008 sit below this property today. No one knows what sits in the groundwater today. Not the applicant, not the state, not the city, or not even my expert geologist. If this monitoring well was here today, then we would know that answer. Here it goes through the history of why that contaminated well was removed. In 2006, DTSC's own geological service unit specifically said monitoring well 57 is a critical deep well and should not be decommissioned to accommodate new residential housing. A site access agreement was executed, and the landowner had the sole and absolute discretion to remove the monitoring well from the project site. Monitoring well 57 was sampled. It was the highest concentration of deep well in the entire Chatham monitoring network at the time. The responsible parties at that same time were declining DTSC's request to delineate the deep zone, calling it overbroad and unwarranted. So we're already seeing a passing of the buck, should we say, from the responsible party trying to push off DTSC's requests on human health and safety. DTSC did concur in the removal. However, in that same letter, they argued that monitoring well 55 should be kept in place because its sampling would ensure that no contaminants are in the groundwater underneath that location. Destruction of the monitoring well was completed in 2009. No equivalent replacement well was ever installed on the property. Here is a video I have on the most critical issue that our hydrogeologist has identified in this project. Now, I know the applicant has said that there is going to be no blasting, but it does say it is a potential in the project application, and our hydrogeologist did visit the site, and he said there is significant grading change from the street level to the center of the parcel where they're going to be building the road. So this is a conceptual video to show you the impacts of blasting in a fractured, contaminated aquifer. You'll see the contaminants are dissolved within the cracks and the fractures in the bedrock. The house is proposed here in the middle. The blasting occurs, and new fractures are created in the bedrock. These new fractures intersect the groundwater and create new fracture pathways. Blasting changes the structure of the subsurface, and there is no data to evaluate the impacts of blasting on this project site. No environmental agency has formally reviewed this development. DTSC is the lead agency on this Superfund cleanup. They confirmed in writing multiple times, as well as on my recorded conversation, that they have not reviewed the design elements of this project, specifically blasting or the bioretention basin. The comments that Sean made from the Regional Water Board was a quick 5-minute public comment. It was not a formal review. He said he's working with DTSC, and they said they were reviewing, not have reviewed. That is very important. 15 days later, on a recorded call, that transcript was submitted to the record. The same geologist narrowed his statement and said that there is no contamination in the shallow plume, and acknowledged that blasting had never been reviewed. That leaves one responsible land use authority, that is the city of Escondido. Whatever is decided today around the environmental scrutiny is what it receives here. A licensed hydrogeologist has reviewed the site, and the city has not issued a formal rebuttal. I know I've gone over, so I'm going to wrap this up as quickly as possible. I have a few more slides left. Just to reiterate, the key findings are retained hydrogeologist. Scott Snyder has been working as a licensed hydrogeologist for 30 years. He has 4 active projects with DTSC at the moment. He's worked on projects with the Navy, private developers, etc. He identified blasting in the fractured bedrock as the single greatest threat. It can open new pathways to the very rock that carries contamination. The site is uncharacterized at the depth that the project will disturb, but testing to 2 feet cannot support a 6.5-foot excavation. He specifically noted that a bioretention basin should not be approved for this project, and if it is, there should be specific safeguards in place, specifically a redundant liner, a monitoring point below that, and a failure response plan as well should it leak and recharge into the ground and move the groundwater plume in new directions. With no monitoring wells on the specific site, Scott Snyder argues that no one knows the contamination levels that are underneath this specific site as it pertains to groundwater. These are engineering findings from a licensed expert. What we're asking the city to require: evaluate the project for health risks and threats to the cleanup. Condition on any further consideration that the applicants submit their project design plans formally to DTSC and the Regional Water Board for technical input. Scott, our hydrogeologist, noted that he's worked with developers on contaminated sites before, and that is a routine behavior that developers usually do to make sure that there's no liability exposure risks. 2, Scott says a geotechnical investigation should be a minimum requirement of City Council. This will address and analyze the subsurface, specifically rock, soil, and groundwater conditions. A monitoring well should be required on the development site to determine the groundwater contamination levels, sampled on the same schedule as the Chatham, plus an evaluation of perched groundwater. One of my neighbors who joined me in retaining Scott Snyder as a retained expert uncovered standing groundwater at 4 feet below surface when they were excavating for palm trees. And this is a neighbor who butts up to this specific property. Our hydrogeologist is asking for a robust soil vapor plan, so sampling at more locations at variable depths, and specifically underneath each proposed residence. Currently, soil vapor is only at 5 feet. Requires soil testing, maximum excavation, and a soil management plan like Commissioner Steve mentioned. That means testing as they go to make sure no contaminated soil is dumped in other areas around the property. It's a cut and fill, no soil is leaving this property. And then prohibit the bioretention basin. Scott Snyder specifically said that the bioretention basin should not be approved as is, and if a bioretention basin is approved, that these safeguards should be in place, specifically that redundant second liner, monitoring points beneath the basin, and a failure response plan. And lastly, no irrigation or supply wells should be allowed on these parcels. Specifically, the water board and our hydrogeologist said that these have the potential to pull the plume in new directions. These are stamped recommendations from Snyder Geologic's record, which have not been addressed in the staff report. All right, so I think I've gone over, so I'm going to wrap it up here. And essentially what we're asking is match the review to the site. Grant the appeal on the condition on the implementation of Scott Snyder's findings, beginning with the geotechnical investigation he calls a minimum requirement before any ground disturbance. Thank you so much for the extra time. I truly appreciate it.
Thank you, Heidi.
Mr. Mayor, before just going, so calculated the additional time that she spoke was about 10 minutes. So in recommendation and fairness and equity for all the applicant and the appellant, they do both have 5 minutes allotted for a rebuttal, but I'm going to recommend that you add 10 minutes to the applicants. They'd have 15 minutes for rebuttal, and Ms. Heidi would have 5 minutes for
Recommendation accepted.
The applicant has 15 minutes to come forward.
I will try not to use 15. As I listen to the appellant's argument, it sounds more like a critique of the PRP group, the Department of Toxics, and the Regional Water Quality Control Board potentially not being on the up and up with respect to their work that they are required to do to properly delineate their own plume. This property is not a source of impact. It's not a source of any of the contaminants of concern that are emanating from Chatham Brothers Barrel Yard. So it's a little confusing that the appellant is honing in on a vacant piece of property that may have 5 homes on it someday, where in and around it there are dozens of existing homes underlain by the same groundwater of concern, yet we're not worried about those homes. I just don't get it, but I'm going to continue here. I'll hit the points one by one. Geotechnical report, that's a standard requirement. Mr. Duran's going to have to do a geotechnical report at some point if he wants to get a grading permit and a building permit. He won't be able to build his project without it. As far as blasting, I'm not sure how that was introduced to the mix, but we looked at old well logs for the former MW57, and then there was an exploratory boring that was drilled on the property at one time. They were both drilled by conventional hollow stem auger methods. It cut through the upper 20 feet of DG, decomposed granite, pretty readily. That would indicate that there's not going to be any blasting required in order for Mr. Duran to make his grade to 6 or 9 feet, whatever it may be. I think it's 9 feet max. The rock outcrops out there, or rock outcrops, the boulders out there, those can be modified, moved. They may have to have a breaker bar on them to get them out or dislodged, but there's not going to be any blasting needed out there in order to move those. And they're going to look like nice decorations at some point. He can repurpose those. Again, jumping back to the groundwater issue, all of the data that you just had to listen to is deep zone groundwater data. That's where the contaminants remain. The remedy that's cost hundreds of millions of dollars by the Chatham folks in order to implement has pretty much brought the shallow groundwater zone, including any perched groundwater, to a clean, pristine condition. The deeper zone groundwater is what it is. It probably never will be brought back to pristine condition. There's always going to be something residual in it. And that's not something that Mr. Duran can control. That's not something that any of the property owners surrounding Chatham can control. That's only something that the Chatham PRP group can control. So let's see, what else? The basin. We've talked about the basin. This is not an infiltration basin. It is not a basin that will let water seep out of it vertically into the soil and down to the groundwater table, thereby potentially impacting the depth and flow of groundwater. It captures water that will come off by sheet flow from the new improvements that are constructed. It'll flow into the basin where it'll be filtered and basically treated to a clean condition. Then it will be discharged laterally as if it was just leaving the site as normal stormwater. There's no vertical influence from this basin. Has no impact on the groundwater quality or the groundwater depth and flow direction. Irrigation wells. Mr. Duran has no intent to install irrigation wells, but even if he did want to install irrigation wells, he could get a permit and work with Department of Toxics and Water Board to do that. There are specific procedures and policies in place to add wellhead treatment systems to irrigation wells in the area, and that's funded by the PRP group. Again, he doesn't want to put in irrigation wells, but he could if he really wanted to. Let's see. Because the property is not a source of contamination, it's always been vacant land. Mr. Duran has no obligation to voluntarily knock on the door of the Department of Toxics and Water Board and say, hey, I need you to oversee my site now for assessment, study of somebody else's contamination issue. If this site formerly had an industrial building on it that did plating or some other sort of industrial activity, then absolutely the appellant's basis for saying that extensive study needs to be done, I'd be the first one to say extensive study needs to be done. Because this site has always been vacant land it's always been vacant land. There is no technical basis or no justification to expect a private property owner who owns a piece of vacant land that has some residual contaminants resulting from a Superfund site 700 feet away that's not his, and he's not part of the PRP group, expecting to coerce him to work with two state regulatory agencies is something that I've never heard of in my career as an environmental consultant. So again, for property owners and site developers who are building on sites where the source of contamination actually occurred at the site all day long, we work with these agencies often. So, geez, sorry. I guess that's all I really have. Lee, did you want to add anything else?
No, I'm available for questions.
Yeah, just questions. But yeah, I think I've hit all of my points. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Before we get to questions, I'll invite the appellant up for the 5-minute rebuttal.
I'm going to, sorry. Thank you. I wanted to address, my initial appeal had mentioned that it was an infiltration basin, but after I retained a hydrogeologist, I narrowed that to his professional opinion, which did identify there is a liner. It is not an infiltration basin, but he did identify that a threat is the potential for that very thin 3mm liner to be nicked or improperly installed, which does actually happen fairly often. And in normal construction circumstances, that would not be a threat, but when a bioretention basin is overlying a contamination plume, any recharge of groundwater or stormwater into the ground does introduce a potential to move the plume to new property surrounding the site. So I just wanted to clarify that point that they made, as well as the agricultural wells. So again, the agricultural wells around this property have an exposure gap at the moment. They are bringing contaminated water to the surface that has been acknowledged by DTSC. The levels of that contamination are unknown, and so that's exactly why that there is a well contingency plan in place right now, is to protect these parcels south of the source plume site from any further issues. Now, in those conversations with DTSC, they acknowledge that the wellhead treatment currently in place does not fully treat for all the chemicals. They treat for the VOCs, but they do not treat for 1,4-dioxane, which is a chemical that is being understood on a very updated basis. The state just put a new draft memo out in 2025 for a new monitoring threshold for that chemical. So that's exactly why I'm arguing that there has been significant regulatory understanding since the 2007 approval of this project, specifically looking at the potential contamination pathways and the exposure levels. Lastly, I wanted to mention that when this developer bought this property in 2020, all land purchases, require due diligence, and I have drawn the conclusion that this developer was aware at that time of the cleanup efforts in the plume. He has a DTSC covenant at another property he owns further south of the parcel in question. When he bought this property, I don't know what his intentions were, but what I'm saying today is an expert hydrogeologist with 30 years of experience has identified threats within this project, specifically the bioretention basin. The Scott Snyder said should not be approved as is, and if it is approved, a second monitoring point should be underneath the redundant liner. These are not huge asks that we're asking, that our hydrogeologist has identified, and should be standard for someone who very much appreciates the environment and the water quality in this region. I think that's all I have for now, but I'm open to questions if you have them. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll move on to public comment, and then we'll close the public hearing and turn it over to the council.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. First speaker is Greg Oliver.
Hello, Council. This is something that I am not expert in, but I did spend about 50 years of my working career taking in large amounts of data and that were incomplete and sorting through them to come to a decision. And that's what I think I heard, is that we have a lot of data, nobody has the complete story yet. And my rule of thumb is the answers in those cases is you need more data. So, considering these data gaps, I look at what the information is. We have a 20-year-old study that shouldn't meet the reasonable diligence standard, especially since, as in the remarks of the appellant, the nature of toxic vapor intrusion is now recognized as a human exposure pathway, and things have changed. The city can perform or can cause to be performed a specific hydrogeological analysis to ensure that the proposed grading and removal, I'm not saying blasting, but that's neither here nor there. The proposed grading and the removal of the large subsurface boulders, the concern is that altering that will change the contamination migration pathways and uncork new vapor routes into the neighboring and residential properties. I live over there, and I assure you that I don't want anything like that in my life. One of the alternatives that Ivan Flores suggested was to mandate a full environmental impact report or subsequent mitigated negative declaration, which would provide the public with a transparent, agency-coordinated analysis of the 2026 site conditions. So that would bring you to current. As a matter of process, I think that the Development Services Department should have established a documented technical record with the Department of Toxic Substance Control early in the entitlement process for a project sitting in a Superfund plume area. And I ask that the City Council commit to delaying approval until the developers implement the findings and recommendations made by an expert geological analysis like
Thank you, Mr. Oliver. Your
Snyder.
time has expired.
Thank you.
Yeah. Our next speaker is Philip Lauder.
Honorable Mayor and council members, hello, I'm Phil Lauder. I'm a 20-year resident of District 4 in Escondido. I'm also the vice chair of the Sierra Club North County Group. And the Sierra Club North County Group submitted a comment letter in May citing concerns about lack of adequate environmental review and project mitigations to address concerns related to the Chatham Barrel Yard site. I'm here tonight to reaffirm those concerns. Sierra Club North County Group urges the council to support this appeal of the proposed project and to deny the project as adopted and to send the project back for updated analysis and mitigation such as those actions outlined in the Snyder Geologic Report. Thank you for considering our recommendation.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Cheryl, and I apologize for, I don't want to incorrectly pronounce your last name. I'm so sorry. Yes.
All right, good afternoon, or good evening, I guess it's evening now. My name is Cheryl Kirsteins. I'm here along with my neighbors and my husband, Waco Kirsteins, and we have been a resident there for 27 years. When we purchased the property, it was disclosed to us about the Chatham site, but I can just say we know what we don't know. And so at that time, we were told there was no problem. But after Heidi has done her due diligence and we've received reports in regards to it, it's very concerning. And we ask that you guys carefully consider the significant safety, environmental, neighborhood impacts, and the unanswered concerns that we have that surround this project. And when they talk about no blasting, I just have to tell you that my neighbor, who is no longer there, but my new neighbors are, they went to put in a pool, and the granite where they wanted to put it in was too difficult to get rid of. They brought in a big crane, and there's another neighbor down the road, same thing. And there would have to be, those are not just boulders you can pick up and move. That's like significant granite, and there's a ton of it. We have it in our backyard, and you cannot do anything with it without really disrupting the ground. And the wells, to get a well approved in that neighborhood now is a no-go because of the contamination. We've had multiple neighbors that have wanted to put wells in. We thought about doing that ourselves because we have over an acre. And we just couldn't afford to do it. We kind of weighed the plus and minus of paying the water bill or putting in the well. And I'm thankful that we never did put in a well, knowing what we know now. And that's just the health and safety and not really knowing the impact of what this is going to cause, I think that's the most important part about this project. And I just have to give kudos to Heidi. If you guys ever want to hire her as an attorney, she's your girl.
Thank you, Ms. Kirstein. Our next speaker is Laura Hunter.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Laura Hunter for the Escondido Neighbors United. And we have a very long-standing, multi-decadal at this point, I think, interest in the management, oversight, and remediation of the Chatham Barrel Yard. We're very concerned about this proposal moving forward as proposed, and you are well advised to proceed with an abundance of caution on this. Concerns should not be minimized. The plumes are not stable, and you don't want them, at all costs, we do not want them remobilized or differently mobilized. Additional environmental review is needed. This site is complicated, but honestly, your decision isn't. You haven't, for some weird artifact of your process, how it is that the city council, our elected representatives, have not seen this project in almost 20 years after the permit, the map expired. I totally don't understand that. But even though this is your first time seeing it in almost 20 years, you are being asked for the first time to affirmatively state that it's a safe site, that blasting and massive grading will not impact the remediation of the Chatham Barrel Yard plumes, that mitigations are fully in place, and there will be no adverse downstream impacts. And you have an expert analysis who says you don't have the information to make those findings. I really hope you will look at that and require those data gaps to be filled. But what keeps me up at night, I'll tell you, is this site has cost millions and millions of dollars. There's been a lot of work done on it. And when we asked in that phone call, DTSC, so what happens if there's a consequence of this project or any project that changes the plumes, we would say that if, here's the quote, we would say that if the contamination pathways are altered by the development of the responsible party would have to address that situation. They would all likely sue each other and to determine who does it. Not a great response, but it's a reality. What keeps me up at night is I don't want there to be a change to this site. Then the PRP say, hey, we didn't do it. The responsible parties who are on the hook right now and paying for what needs to be done. And I'm telling you, getting them to pay for stuff is like pulling teeth. It's not easy. But I don't want them saying, hey, we didn't do this. Go talk to the city. They did this. They said they're not gonna blast, then prohibit blasting in your environmental conditions. They say they don't want to do any wells, prohibit those wells from being put, and that could be done as part of your, the conditions that you put on the project, which you can do. There's a lot more to say, but I'm out of time again. So anyway, I would just not take this lightly. I think it's wrong that you haven't seen this in almost 20 years. You're up there, you're elected to represent us and to look out for these kinds of things. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Scott Swaley.
Hello, everyone. My name is Scott Swaley, and I feel a little bit like I just showed up to a marathon in flip-flops with all these other people speaking. But I am a homeowner here and a small business owner in Escondido. Moved here in 2023, and I absolutely love this place. I love everything about Escondido. And the property we bought was just south of Villa Rancho with Felicita Creek going right through the middle of it. Very beautiful. And a lot of you might remember our welcome was the January 2024 storms. And so just I'm an engineer, I'm a data guy, I love looking at this stuff, right? I've kind of shown up maybe late to this history of this site, but what I do is I've been looking at like what makes our watershed. I have everything from the brand new LiDAR data that came out and surveys, and I just love playing with this stuff. And the more I learn about our watershed, specifically this little Felicita watershed, is it is this like fascinating little micro environment. Any engineer I show this goes like, whoa, wow, that's kind of like this other thing, and it doesn't really fit into models. And I'm not really here to talk about the chemicals. People have already done that. I want to talk about flow and debris. So just to paint a picture of what a storm looks like on my half acre, one storm, at any moment, there can be 100,000 gallons of water every minute flowing by my home. Okay, that's a swimming pool every 10 seconds, right? I don't see that on any of these reports, right? I see, 750 gallons a minute, yeah, on like a random Tuesday, but you'd think that, is that just the January storms that one year? No, it's happened 3 times. I moved here the day before Christmas, 2023. And on, again, just one storm eroded 5% of my property. It blocked access for 4 homes where senior citizens live. They cannot physically get to or from their homes. It also caused $400,000 of damage that FEMA is helping me with for my property and my small business. And I've personally, with a shovel and a wheelbarrow, moved 45 metric tons of sand that came with that one storm. And I did it again on the next storm, right? This is one home, and we are in a world where everything is changing. Climate is changing. We have new developments on the watershed. All these things are new. And so if we get 1 more inch of water coming our way, our culverts fill and it jumps up about another 1.5 feet. That means failing septic systems. That means properties are now actually like maybe 6 inches, 8 inches underwater. Not to mention, if you would walk by one of those creeks, and I've been this deep in it, trying to keep...
And Mr. Swaley, your time has expired.
That's the reality of living here.
Thank you. No further public comments on this item.
All right, we'll go ahead and close the public hearing. I hate to leave you all hanging. Can we take a 5-minute break? Cool. All right, we're going to reconvene this meeting. I have a question for my colleagues, whether or not you would support this. A recommendation to staff to meet with both the appellant and the applicant and see where we can find maybe a little bit more common ground and refine the process. And I want to say that I don't think there's anybody in this home that's opposed to 5 homes being built. I think most of us want to see that. But getting there in a fair and equitable manner, I think if staff could meet with both of you and then let's go from there, would you all be open to that? Yes? Okay. Then...
I think we should have a formal motion.
Meeting?
I was going to ask my colleagues if any of them have questions.
This
Yeah,
should
you
be a
would
motion.
move to continue the
formal
item
motion.
for a date indefinite, I believe. I don't think you're ready to set a date.
And is the applicant and appellant, are you both open to that? I see 2 yeses. Great. All right, then I'll make a motion to continue the item to a future date with the direction given to staff to meet with both the appellant and the applicant. Okay. Does anybody have any questions or comments right now that need to be answered? Go ahead.
Yeah, I'll say the reason I'm supporting this because I also feel like there's a couple things that maybe there could be some clarity on. There's different regarding the basin, the water basin. There's different words being used to describe the basin. So if we can get some common language, that would be very helpful for me because I did see different descriptions about the basin. And so that's, for me, I like this because it allows a little bit more time and it allows staff to meet with both the applicant and the appellant. But I just wanted to say that it does get confusing as well because this is a lot of information, but when we're using different things to describe, so some common language and making sure that we have some common ground would be helpful with making this decision. Thank you.
I really want to thank staff for all the work that you did. Ivan, Veronica, we had the one-on-ones and, just the deep dives and going out and reaching out to all the organizations, that we had talked about. I think you did a really good job. And there was just a lot here. We don't have the geological subject matter experts in the house. And so, the resources that you used were very appreciated. So just really good job on all the work that you did. I appreciate it a lot. Also, I do appreciate, and I've mentioned before, I appreciate people bringing these concerns. These are important, and, due diligence is required, and this is just an example of it. And also an example of how we do, housing is very important, but public health is the priority in all circumstances. So thank you for what you did. Thank you for the information that you brought as well, and I'm very grateful that you will be meeting to hopefully we'll come to a resolution and make sure that it's a healthy one for everybody that's living there and potential new residents. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, just a procedural element of this. So this would be a continuation of this current public hearing. So in that regard, no new submission of additional material. There wouldn't be another presentation from the appellant or the applicant. It would be a presentation from staff coming forward based off of the feedback. So just want to clarify if that's clear for the motion and for the council.
For right now, that's fine. Yeah, okay.
Just want to clarify. Thank you.
Okay, does anybody have anything else? There's a motion and a second. Please vote.
Voting is open. Motion approved, 5-0.
Thank you to staff. Thank you for, Heidi, thank you for giving us all that information and spending so much time with us over the last few weeks. I would like to end that item just by saying I do hope we can find some sort of a reasonable conclusion that satisfies both parties. I don't think there's anybody in here that has an issue with 5 homes going up. We just want to make sure we do it in the safest way that doesn't impact the health and safety of the surrounding area. So thank you all very much. And with that being said, does anybody have anything they need to add to a future agenda? I would like to request a presentation from the San Diego Rescue Mission with respect to the point-in-time count versus the by-name list. Thank you, sir. All right, council member subcommittee reports and other reports. We'll start down at this end this week. Council member?
It's only been a week, but so I'll keep mine short. Yesterday, I had the opportunity to have a table and participate in National Night Out. It was a fun event with lots of organizations. Thanks to all who participated, our police department, fire, compact, and all the organizations and volunteers that made it possible. And I have no subcommittee meetings this week.
Thank you. Mr. Howard from the Clean Energy Alliance gave my JPA subcommittee report for me. He did a great job. And so everyone, I've been saying this for months, join a program, look at it, look it up, look at ways to save energy, please. And as always, thank you to my community for the privilege of serving.
All right, if you haven't been to Escondido's brand spanking new public library, now is the time to go check it out. It was a fantastic grand reopening, and I think it shocked everybody at how awesome it really was. And I just wanted to once again thank city staff, library board, library staff, volunteers, and everybody who made the transition from here to there and back to here seem, I think, somewhat seamless from the public eye. And then shortly after the library grand reopening was the mural dedication at the library. If you have not seen that, I implore you to go check it out. One of the coolest artists I've ever met, just an awesome guy, and he did a fantastic job. On Monday, I went to the San Diego Rescue Mission Mayor's Symposium, where we got to sit and discuss all things homelessness. That's actually where I saw the presentation on the by name list versus the point-in-time count. And it was very fascinating. I think we could benefit from at least listening and hearing what they have to say. And National Night Out. And then last week I did go to the, was it promotion ceremony for fire? I believe it was promotion ceremony for the fire department. And that concludes my report.
Library grand opening, super duper super cool, awesome community there, loved it. National Light Out was also a lot of fun, talking to the community, the games. Last year I played some, I joined some of the games and ended up taking home a blender taking home a blender. This year I didn't want to participate because, hey, my skills on, all these games are so good, the hula hoop especially. But it was awesome, it was great, and enjoyed a really wonderful hot dog. So anyway, thank you. Concludes my report.
Thank you. This morning, the mayor and I did an economic development business visit, and it's to a new lumber yard that purchased, what was the name of the
Pine Tree.
Pine Tree. Yes, so it is called Ganal Lumber. They've been in Southern California since the late 1800s, and they have since they've taken over, the revenue has gone up close to 35 million. They're expecting, right now they have at about 60 employees. After they do the renovations and they expand, they expect to employ 130. And they take entry level, build them up. It's just a phenomenal business. I was just so excited to hear about it. And the employees are stockholders. There's just so many career opportunities, and I just could go on about that. But anyway, so that was a really neat thing to see. Yesterday, I spoke at the Escondido Rotary Club at luncheon. So we just talked about the things that are going on in Escondido, a little bit of what we know here about Costco, what's going on with the rinks that we know, and how we're still waiting for more information. And on, let's see here, I too went to the library ribbon cutting with my colleagues. I think they pretty much summed up what we all thought about it. And I also had an opportunity to attend the Sandak Public Safety Board meeting and was able to take away from that, just come and talk to the chief of police regarding the e-bikes. So it was coincidental that the next meeting for Sandak was the same time, around the same time that we were talking about that. So a lot of interesting things to report, a lot of assembly bills that are coming out, and they actually address almost every item that we brought up. And that's all I have to report. Thank you.
City manager?
Nothing to report.
Public comments?
None.
All right, this meeting is adjourned.